It's 1974. You climb into a steel cab with no heat, no air conditioning, and a seat that feels like a cinder block. You grab two levers that fight you harder than the ground you're supposed to dig. The hydraulics scream, oil sprays across the windshield from the inside, and by 10 a.m. the machine has already broken down twice. Welcome to the 1970s, a decade when excavator manufacturers were gambling with brand new hydraulic technology, and the operators were the ones paying the price. Today we're counting down 10 machines from this era that made grown men walk off job sites. Number 10. The Northwest 80D. Let's start with a name that used to mean something in the excavator world: Northwest Engineering, out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Before hydraulic excavators took over construction sites in the 1960s and 1970s, cable-operated backhoes, shovels, and draglines could be seen on almost every construction job across America, and one of the most popular brand names was Northwest. The problem was, Northwest couldn't let go of the past. The 80D was one of their attempts at staying relevant during the 1970s, but it was a machine that felt like it had one foot stuck in the cable-operated era. The undercarriage design was carried over from their older cable shovels, flat pad tracks that were simply pinned together without separate rails or hardened pins and bushings. This kind of track system was designed for machines that barely moved from one spot. It was fine for a cable shovel that parked itself and dug all day. But in the 1970s, job sites demanded mobility, and these tracks wore out at an alarming rate if you actually drove the machine around. Operators complained constantly about the sluggish response. While Japanese manufacturers like Hitachi were developing excavators in-house with smooth, responsive hydraulic systems, Northwest was trying to bolt hydraulic components onto a philosophy that was 2 decades old. The controls felt vague and disconnected. Getting a precise cut with the bucket was like trying to thread a needle while wearing boxing gloves. By the end of the decade, Northwest Engineering was struggling badly. They couldn't compete with the flood of more advanced hydraulic machines entering the American market, and the company that had once been a giant in cable-operated excavators eventually faded from the scene entirely. Number 9. The O&K RH6. O&K Orenstein & Koppel was founded in Germany in 1876 and launched one of Europe's first hydraulic excavators, the RH5, in 1961. But their 1970s mid-range RH6 was a different story. This 16-ton crawler ran an air-cooled 5-cylinder Dotz diesel that generated so much heat, operators worked with the engine bonnets propped wide open just to prevent overheating. The cab was brutal, no heater, no air conditioning, no wipers, and a flip-up movie theater seat that offered zero comfort. Visibility was terrible thanks to thick structural panels creating dangerous blind spots. O&K's construction division was eventually absorbed by Terex, and the name quietly disappeared from job sites. Number 8. The Hymac 580C. Hymac was a British manufacturer with a proud history. The company was established in 1946 in Rhymney, Wales, and they were genuine pioneers of the all-hydraulic 360-degree excavator. Their 580 series alone saw around 10,000 units built between 1964 and 1987 across various versions. Hymac machines were the brand leaders in the United Kingdom for years, but the 580C variant that was widely sold during the 1970s had problems that became common knowledge among operators. The most notorious issue was structural cracking. Fractures to the booms and dipper arms were a common occurrence on Poclain and Hymac machines of this era. Operators working in tough ground conditions, rock, heavy clay, frozen earth, would find stress cracks developing in the boom welds. These weren't minor cosmetic issues. Left undetected, a boom fracture could lead to a catastrophic failure, and the idea of a loaded bucket dropping unexpectedly was every operator's nightmare. The cab design on the 580C was also a product of its time, which is another way of saying it was miserable. Thin steel panels offered zero insulation from cold Welsh winters or scorching summer days. Visibility was limited by thick structural pillars, and the noise levels inside the cab were punishing. You could feel every vibration from the engine and hydraulic pumps right through the seat and floor. In 1972, Hymac took over Whitlock Brothers, a backhoe loader manufacturer, in an effort to diversify. But diversification couldn't fix the fundamental reliability concerns that were eroding operator confidence. While Hymac machines were dominant in Britain, the 580C's structural issues left a lasting negative impression on the men who ran them day after day. Number 7. The Poclain LC80. Poclain was a French company that had been a genuine innovator in hydraulic excavation. They built one of the world's first hydraulic excavators, the TU, back in 1951, and their revolutionary TY45, a full 360-degree rotating excavator on a three-wheel tricycle undercarriage introduced in 1961, was a massive worldwide success, with over 30,000 units built across 21 years of production and the model being marketed in over 120 countries. But the 1970s were a turbulent time for Poclain. The company expanded rapidly, taking over various supplier companies to gain control of their supply chain. That aggressive expansion stretched them thin, and when the global recession hit, it caused severe financial problems. In 1974, the Bataille family that had founded the company was forced to begin selling their stake to Case Corporation of America. The LC80, which competed in the medium to large excavator class, suffered from the consequences of this corporate turmoil. Quality control slipped during this period. The hydraulic motors that Poclain designed in-house were innovative but complex, and when they failed, finding someone who could properly service them was a major challenge, especially outside of France. Parts availability became unpredictable as the company's financial situation worsened. Operators reported that the LC80's hydrostatic drive system, while advanced in concept, was temperamental in practice. The machine would sometimes lose power to the tracks without warning, and diagnosing the issue often required specialist knowledge that most field mechanics simply didn't have. The Poclain name still carries respect among vintage equipment enthusiasts today, but the LC80 during the mid-1970s represented a company that was losing its grip on quality during a financial crisis. Number 6. The Bucyrus-Erie 20H Series 2. Bucyrus-Erie was one of the most legendary names in American excavation history. Founded in the 1880s, the company had built everything from the steam shovels that helped dig the Panama Canal to the massive drag lines used in strip mining. But when hydraulic excavators began replacing cable machines in the 1960s, Bucyrus-Erie struggled with the transition. Their first fully hydraulic crawler excavator, the 20H, was launched in 1965. It was a 3/4-yard machine powered by Cummins or GM diesel engines, producing 106 horsepower and weighing 19 tons. On paper, it looked modern enough, but as one industry historian noted, with increasing competition from European hydraulic excavator producers in the early 1960s, traditional American manufacturers of cable-operated excavators struggled to change over to the new method of digging, and you could feel that struggle in the 20H. The machine was designed by engineers who had spent their entire careers thinking about cables, drums, and clutches. The hydraulic system felt grafted onto a cable excavator's DNA. The operator's cab was mounted on the opposite side from where modern excavators place it, which disoriented operators who had experience on other hydraulic machines. The propel motor, showing its cable excavator roots, was mounted through the center of the machine in a configuration that was outdated from day one. By the 1970s, the Series 2 version had addressed some of the earliest problems, but it still couldn't compete with the smoothness and responsiveness of machines from Caterpillar or the incoming Japanese manufacturers. Getting parts for a 1975 model Bucyrus-Erie 20H was described by one contractor as a real bear, and the resale value of these machines dropped like a stone. Forum posts from operators years later valued them at little more than scrap price. Number 5. The Insley H1000. Insley Manufacturing Company out of Indianapolis, Indiana, was founded in 1907 and held many patents for cable-operated digging equipment. They made the transition to hydraulic backhoes around 1971, discontinuing their successful cable excavator line. Their machines were powered by screaming Detroit diesel two-stroke engines and were considered rugged and powerful. So why is the H1000 on this list? One word: controls. Insley's control layout was what operators called an aerobics workout. Instead of the two-joystick pilot control system that was becoming the industry standard, Insley used a combination of 2 sticks and 4 pedals. The left stick controlled the swing. The right stick operated the boom with a 2-speed switch. The left pedal controlled the bucket, the right pedal handled the stick, and two pedals in the middle were for travel. Running an Insley was a full-body exercise that burned serious calories. Now experienced Insley operators who had grown up on these machines actually loved them. There's no question about that. But for anyone coming from a newer machine with pilot controls, or for a new operator learning the trade, the Insley control system was absolutely punishing. After an 8-hour shift, your legs were cramped, your arms ached, and your back was screaming from the constant pedal work. The critical failure of Insley as a company was their refusal to modernize these controls. As one veteran operator put it, their inability to change the controls from the aerobic-style front-to-rear system to hand controls was part of the demise of Insley. They simply wouldn't move with the times, and by the mid-1980s, it cost them dearly. Insley lost its independence in 1975 when it was purchased by United Dominion Industries, and the brand eventually ended up with Badger Equipment Company, which ceased production of Insley machines in the 1990s. Number 4. The Warner & Swasey Hopto 1900. Warner & Swasey, headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio, was a large industrial manufacturer that owned both the Gradle and Hopto brand names. The Gradle was actually the first production hydraulic excavator manufactured in the United States, dating back to 1946. But the Hopto 1900, introduced in 1972, was a different kind of beast. When it was launched, the Hopto 1900 was the largest American hydraulic excavator ever built. It was a 100-ton machine with an 8-cubic-yard bucket, powered by twin GM 8V71 Detroit diesel engines producing 300 horsepower each. That sounds impressive, and in terms of raw digging power, it was. But twin Detroit engines meant twin maintenance headaches. Everything on this machine was doubled: 2 engine cooling systems, 2 sets of fuel lines, 2 of every engine component that could fail. The noise level produced by those twin 2-stroke Detroits was beyond brutal. Operators on Warner & Swasey machines were advised to use hearing protection, and many who ran these machines for years ended up with significant hearing damage. One forum commenter noted that a colleague went half-deaf from running old excavators with Detroit diesel engines screaming at 2,650 RPM, compared to modern excavators that run at only about 1,600 to 1,700 RPM and are far quieter. The sheer complexity of the Hopto 1900 made it a mechanic's nightmare. When something went wrong, and on a machine this complex, something always went wrong. Diagnosing whether the issue was on the left engine circuit or the right engine circuit added hours to every repair. The machine was powerful but over-engineered for what most job sites actually needed, and its operating costs were astronomical. Number 3. The American Hoist Derrick 35. American Hoist and Derrick Company was primarily known for their cranes, but they also manufactured excavators during the 1970s. The Model 35 was a larger excavator that inherited many design elements straight from the company's crane heritage, and that was exactly the problem. The undercarriage on the American 35 was old technology through and through. It used flat pad tracks that were simply pinned together, a design carried over from the cable shovel and crane era. There were no separate rails, no hardened pins and bushings, just a basic track system designed for machines that were meant to be parked in one spot and work, not driven across a construction site. In the 1970s, hydraulic excavators needed to be mobile. Operators would dig in one area, then track across the job site to another position, sometimes multiple times per shift. The American 35's undercarriage just couldn't handle this kind of use. The track pins wore quickly, the pads loosened, and within a relatively short period of service, the undercarriage was sloppy and in need of expensive rebuilding. The steering system was also antiquated. It relied on a mechanical shaft driven through the center, bearing with a disconnect on one track, essentially a block and skid steering arrangement borrowed from cable shovels of an earlier generation. Number 2. The Link-Belt LS5800. Link-Belt was a well-established American manufacturer that had been building construction equipment for decades. During the transition to hydraulic excavators, they entered into a licensing agreement with Sumitomo of Japan, where Sumitomo built machines based on Link-Belt's designs. This sounds like a smart move on paper, but the early results were mixed. The LS5800, produced during the 1970s, was a large crawler excavator that suffered from the growing pains of this cross-Pacific partnership. The hydraulic system design reflected the limitations of American hydraulic engineering at the time. The same gear pump, manual valve approach that plagued other domestic manufacturers. While Link-Belt was licensing technology, the fundamental hydraulic architecture of their larger machines still lagged behind what pure Japanese manufacturers like Komatsu and Hitachi were developing independently. Operators found the LS5800 to be a frustrating machine in tough digging conditions. The hydraulic response was sluggish when you needed it most, and the cycle times, the speed at which you could fill a bucket, swing, dump, and return, were noticeably slower than competing machines. On a production job where you're loading trucks all day, slow cycle times mean fewer loads per hour, which means less money for the contractor. The electrical system was another weak point. Wiring harnesses on 1970s heavy equipment were generally not great, but the LS5800 had a particular reputation for electrical gremlins, intermittent faults, corroded connections, and gauges that would give false readings. When your temperature gauge tells you everything is fine while your engine is actually overheating, you end up with a very expensive engine rebuild. Number 1. The Hein-Werner C14. Hein-Werner Corporation of Waukesha, Wisconsin wasn't an excavator company. They were the world's largest hydraulic jack manufacturer. In 1962, they decided to build excavators, and the C14 proved that was a mistake. Every major component was bought off the shelf. Detroit diesel engines, commercial shearing gear pumps, Funk drive housings, Rockwell gearboxes. The hydraulics were sluggish, the controls were brutally physical, and the dealer network was practically non-existent. Then Hein-Werner was sold to Swedish interests. The excavator line was killed, and every C14 still working became an orphan. No parts, no support, no factory behind it. A jack company's failed experiment. If you've ever operated any of these machines, or if your father or grandfather told stories about running one, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your first-hand experiences. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into construction equipment history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.